Yes. Now it's started.
Okay. I got it. It has started.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm
Good evening.
online with Trond. We are talking. I'm talking from South Africa and he's in Norway. Say hello, Trond.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Pleased to meet you.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I promised you that we will record a video because we would have done these videos if we were together. But unfortunately, we are apart. Yes. And we thought, let's give a conversation about the challenges of being in a long distance relationship.
Exactly.
Yes. I don't know, we haven't talked about who would start. We know that relationships on their own have problems, but it is worse when people are far apart.
Yes.
Do you agree with me on that one, Tron?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. For me, I would like, yes, exactly. For me, I would like to share something while I bring you into our lives, which is taking our private lives now to public, which is fine.
All right.
Yes. Yes. For me, if you remind me or if I forget, I started knowing you in 2013, but we were on friendship basis up until late in 2016. And in 2016, we started dating.
Yes, as far as you could.
I would like to talk about, yes, I would like us to discuss communication and ask you questions. How did it feel to communicate that time? Because I think one of the things you liked about me, it was my style of communication there, that I could start any conversation and something like that. Could you just say something about the communication when people are far apart from each other?
It's important for me to have a good communicator in my life or next to me, or at least the equivalent of her being next to me. Because I can talk for a while if I have to and if I'm inspired, but I'm not very good at starting conversation. And quite honestly, I'm not very good at continuing it either, unless I get a lot of support. So it was very important. It was very valuable to me to have a person who could steer the conversation by my side. It felt less awkward, more rewarding to be with a person like that.
Yes. Yes.
So it was.
Yes. I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. And I think we agree that to a certain extent, but you can say if I'm wrong. I always believe that I'm the extrovert.
Yes.
Here, probably. And you're a little bit introverted.
Yes.
Do you agree on that one?
I have to agree on that. Yes, I know what I'm like.
Yes. Yes, to an extent that I was even afraid to take your life to public this way, because I'm the one who's extroverted, who's always doing public speaking, whose life is out there. So yours is a little bit private. So I was even hesitant to request this video.
We shall see how it works. Like I said, I cannot guarantee you that if there's a awkward quietness, then I might not know then I might not know where to go from there. That's what I'm afraid of the most, actually.
Yes. And in fact, most of the time, I don't even believe that you are quiet, because part of your private job is to interview people and write stories. So you have to start conversations that way also.
That's true, but if we get sidetracked for a little moment, because of something called the pandemic, a lot of my interviews have been done by email recently, or at least in fact for the last 2 years. Prior to that, yes, I did do interviewing. In fact, I've always done interviewing because I also did census taking I don't know if that's the right word, marketing. I worked in marketing for several years while I was looking for a proper job. So, and that meant I was going from house to house to interview people about a variety of subjects for a Gallup firm. They don't do that sort of thing anymore because it's now because now the technology makes it much easier to do all these questionnaires by mail. But they used to send people around from house to house, forcing me because if I wanted to keep the job, forcing me to just to go from door to door and talk to people in a way that was not common to me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Going back to the topic of why you are talking today, the challenges. Again, for me, I would go back to communication since we started with it, that so it was not always easy for me to communicate in as much I'm the extrovert, especially when we sort of disagree on something. Even disagreement is not a strange thing to couples. Couples disagree.
Yes.
So when I found out that I don't agree with what you talk about, because you are far away, it was always easy for me to just end the conversation and say goodbye, to give you a message that I'm not happy about something. Did you notice that?
I gradually learned that. So what you meant
Yes,
by
you noticed that. And usually, did you notice that I would send an email after that, because I felt like that name, we cannot disagree or argue while we are in different countries or different continents. And the best way for me, it was to resolve whatever was a disagreement by emails, because it worked better for me.
Yes, I noticed you felt you we were having a disagreement, then you would send me an email about it, because I guess you felt that you always feel it's easier for you to speak your mind uh, more freely if you can just send an email and just explain in some detail rather than trying to express it in short messages on chat apps.
Yes,
So I know
because
I know that's how you prefer to do it, and how you prefer to make your statement clear.
yes, for me, the understanding is very important, because it's like, for an example, we're on WhatsApp, and if we disagree about something, maybe I get upset or I make you upset. For me, it doesn't make sense to continue unless I go on emails and list facts and try and make you understand why is this thing a problem between us. So for me, it was the only way that I could resolve things, just to send emails. Did you find this working maybe?
I found it a bit foreign to me, but I can see the problem with is that I could understand it in the sense that sometimes it's difficult uh, uh, to stay up late in the evening and try to work things out. So sometimes it's probably easier to just write it down freely and then keep the conversation and then continue the conversation from there tomorrow, the next day. Because sometimes we couldn't reach an agreement at the moment.
I know.
Because
Yes, I know.
it was late, and I would also grow frustrated if I couldn't work out a discussion at the reasonable hour of the evening. So I accepted that as a more practical solution.
Okay, so sometimes you would just leave it, even though I'm trying to make us resolve it through emails. You just leave it, because it would also get frustrating for you to explain further.
Yes.
While we are far apart.
Yes, I tried to do that with varying results. I guess it has been working better in the long run to just get a more detailed explanation that I could reflect on. the
Yes.
next morning, rather than because in the evening it causes one sleepless nights to just have to think too much about an unresolved issue. And while I hate to have things unresolved, sometimes you have to leave something for tomorrow in order to
Okay.
give it enough thought in order to
Yeah.
understand enough.
In general, what can you advise now as the best way to resolve issues or to communicate better when people are far apart? In your own mind, what can you suggest people do when they are in the situation like us?
I don't know if there's such a big difference on if when are having disagreements. I'm not sure if it makes much of a difference whether it's far apart or near. But I guess I would try to. I guess it would be better to talk things out rather than to chat. To chat. It's a mixed pleasure to just use a lot of text chatting.
Yeah, and for me, yes, thank you for that input.
Yeah.
For me, when I send emails now, which is something that maybe would work to other people or would not work to other people, it was one, avoiding us to make things worse by arguing at night on WhatsApp. Secondly, by stating facts on email, even though sometimes you would feel like I have my own mind, which is different from yours. And you would also feel like I want you to see things my way. But for me, it was a longing for you to say to me, to assure me that you hear me, to say, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear the cry, and I don't know if it helped or not.
It usually worked in the sense that it made me able to think more. After giving it some thought, it would be easier to understand and see things your way. Because when we are having a discussion live, and it might be late in the evening, then there's a certain risk I will be too tired and frustrated to try and properly understand things your way. And
Okay.
I'm repeating myself now, I guess, but the point is, I prefer written. I have a tendency to think written communication is better, because
Yes.
I sometimes have difficulty improvising, explaining myself ad lib on improvisation. So giving it some
Okay.
thought is important. And I don't know, where were we really?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think let me move on to other challenge, but I would like to also pass a message that for me, as I said earlier, it is a problem to be far already, but maybe communication should improve. I know that even when we text, I improved a lot. You used to think I'm faster than you when I text.
Yes,
to an extent that
it was a practical issue that I had to discuss with you. That you wrote two long messages. And the problem I had with that is that, first of all, long messages contain more information that you have to think about before you can answer, and also long messages also made me nervous because I thought there was something very serious you were going to tell me. And so if I sat and waited for several minutes, and I could tell from the display that you were writing all the time, and then I got kind of scared, because I was wondering what kind of very serious issues you were going to bring up. So
yeah,
it was not good for my. It took my calm away, and it made me also, I guess, maybe it made me more frustrated. So it made me more incapable of having a proper conversation with mutual understanding. Because I was too distracted by the mere fact that I had to wait so long.
yeah. I think it was also at first, we misunderstood our communication because I think because I'm a talker and I'm
Yes.
an extrovert who's
Yeah.
also a writer, I would want to give you more information, not
Yes,
knowing
yes,
that
yes.
I'm frustrating you. I think I would think you are in front of me. One, I'm a fast talker. I'm a fast writer, even in typing, which became a problem.
Mm. Yes. So it was a matter of just finding middle ground and explaining how can you express yourself in messages that is easier for me to take in and to understand.
Yeah. But do you think that I improved ever since you cautioned me
Yes, I just asked you, I
about
explained it
it?
to you, and I worked just fine. I feel. I feel.
Yeah. Again, which is also a lesson that when you feel like something doesn't work for you, communicate it, because how will I know if you don't tell me, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you feel like I improved, because I know I'm quite a talker. I can go on and on and on and on and on. And
Yes.
even in writing, I can go on and on and on and on and on. I can write
Yes, you
you
could
5 pages.
if you would. I'm sure.
Yeah. So I think I carry many words. And again, I guess what I noticed, which I learned between us, is that we were opposites, but people say opposites attract. We were opposites. So there was a lot of things that we had to learn about one another
Yes.
and try to adjust and meet each other halfway and compromise sometimes.
Yes, it was an uphill struggle, but I think it was healthy for me to learn more about communication. I maybe I feel I might have been underdeveloped in certain areas when it comes to communication, especially oral, the oral kinds, sometimes the written kind as well. So I felt it was useful for me to get these new impressions and to learn to see things from the other sides to a greater
Yeah.
extent. Extent.
I think I've been counting. I've been communicating with you since 2013,
Mm.
and almost every day. Surely there's some improvement, surely. So
Yes.
from 2013 to now, it's something like 8 years,
Yes, a sort of time actually. But there you go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
I
was
think,
it was a gradual learning. It was step by step learning process.
yeah.
That's
For
also.
me, there were times when I would call you, I think while we were quite new in the dating game, and you would be upset about things. And when I noticed that you are sort of shouting, I would slowly disappear, because for me, it didn't make sense that we shout, we argue telephonically or over WhatsApp. So hence I came up with a strategy of emails, because at least with emails, even if the message is strong, but you try and hear the facts.
Yes, it's also. I guess it's also a relief to be able to take time to digest the message rather than having to
Yeah.
think of something to say in response as soon as possible, which is
Yes.
inevitably the result of trying to have a written communication on chat apps.
Yeah. I think today, I don't know how you feel about it. I think we've been talking for a long time.
Yes.
I would have discussed other challenges, but I realized that we talked a lot about communication. So I don't know if I must end, or there's something else you would like to discuss as a challenge, because I feel like we've dwelled too much on communication.
Well, it's been an important issue. It always has been,
Yes.
and it has been a problematic issue because I guess I have a lot to learn in these matters. So yes,
Yes.
it's no wonder we have ended up talking a lot about it today on this first
Yes. And I
recording.
always say to people, if we do it well with communication, it can affect all the aspects of the relationships. If we master communication, we can improve in all the other aspects of the relationship.
Yes.
Whereas if we do it wrongly, we will misunderstand each other, we will assume, we'll make assumptions about each other without communicating them, and we will slowly drift apart, which is something that can easily happen when you are this far from apart, like we have been far. Like I've been reflecting and like thinking, I haven't seen you for something like 2 years now, and which is serious, you know.
Very serious.
And yeah, which is very serious. I know there are many issues, the COVID-19, this and that, but if, and that never happened in the past, at least in the past, we would make a way to meet, even if it's after 4 months, after, you know, we would always meet. Even before I even go overseas, when I was in South Africa, we'd meet at least 4 times a year. So this has never happened like this way. Hence, I thought let us just reflect on it, because sometimes when I talk to friends, people also ask, how does Tron feel without seeing you for 2 years? I always tell them, no, we're working something without talking a lot or revealing a lot. I'll just say we're working on something, you know. One more thing. For me, with communication, it has always been this way. It is not what you say that hurts or that spoils things, but it's how we say it. So I always try, even though I'm not perfect in it, because I know that I've done my own mistakes in terms of communication. I've misunderstood you and you misunderstood me in some instances. But for me, one thing that I can always say, it is not what you say, is how you say it. So we need to learn to improve on how we say things, especially when we are far from each other, because it can be easy to misunderstand one another, to hurt one another, which is why I always cut the conversation on WhatsApp when I felt like I'm not agreeing with you and it can go on another direction. Then I'll just pass a message which say goodbye in the middle of the chat, then give you a chance to reflect on what has gone wrong. But the next day you will get an email that now elaborates on what we were talking about.
Yes, that's what we started talking about. That's right. That was a lot of talking, so I kind of missed. I forgot about which point I was going. So I kind of forgot which point I was going to respond to, actually, because there's a lot of things being brought up at once, and it ended with the point we had already made about why you sent me. You would sometimes cut messages short in the evening and just send me emails. But we had already dealt with that, discussed that. So now I'm trying to figure out what was the issue brought up before that, because it went a bit fast.
I didn't get that one.
No, because like you said, you will sometimes speak in long monologues, long texts. The problem,
I think communication is starting to frustrate us.
And the problem with that, of course, as I see again, is that an issue that I might have been wanting to comment on by the time you finished, and you have changed the subjects, and I forgot what I was going to mention to you earlier. But we talked about distance, right? Yes, that's the problem. And it's a practical issue about the pandemic mostly. There's a few other things that has caused this situation as well. But primarily, it's the fact that it's just too complicated to travel. It used to be quite easy. I was surprised to see, even if it's a long flight, I was surprised to see how easy it felt for me to take this, as opposed to take these journeys back and forth. And now we are stuck like this. And because the pandemic comes and goes up and down, the charts go up and down, it's very difficult to determine when is the safe period. I used to think it would be from September and onwards, but then a fourth wave at least I think it was a fourth wave in Norway. It can be difficult to keep counting, but we're definitely fourth wave now, and also in South Africa it's in a wave, so it's difficult. So it's hard to tell when it's going to be determined as safe to travel again. There is an insecurity to the whole situation that fortunately has been lasting for a long time.
I think we've said a lot around communication.
Yes.
But also I would also like to add one thing which I'm just thinking about now, that this COVID-19 has complicated a lot of things, especially for me. And thinking about it, I'm like, I had COVID-19 twice already. So
yeah, that's kind of a that's a kind of bummer. At least it wasn't so bad the second time around.
Yeah, so while we would like to see one another, we also want to live longer. We hope one day this pandemic thing will pass, and it will be in the past, like all the other pandemics that came before you. You talked about a fever. I forgot its name. You once told me about the fever. Was it a bad fever or what? That was I forgot. You told me something about the fever.
A fever is an actual disease that was something else than COVID.
Yeah, in the past, I'm trying to say every pandemic or contagion, as you call it, it will end in the day, because in the past, this is not the first one. In the past, people has faced some pandemics.
Yes, and they have usually been worse. If we're looking at this historically, it's usually worse than what is going on right now.
Yeah, and it has taken too long. It's been with us now for how long? Since the beginning of 2020. Since the beginning of 2020, it's almost 2 years. Also.
Yes, and it will be. It probably will be exactly 2 years before sufficient sufficient amount of restrictions have been lifted at best. Because when it comes to travel, because they can lift all kinds of restrictions, but when it comes to travel, that's always the most. That's also always the trickiest part.
Yeah, I think because we've been on this video call for too long and I'm getting frustrated because of connection, because I'm in South Africa and you're in Norway, I think we should end this conversation now and see how it goes. And then we can come up with other challenges in the future. And when we have time, we can't do this every day. We've got jobs, we've got other things to do, but once in a blue moon, when we feel like doing it, we will do it, but we will see the results of this one and the reactions of it, and then we take it from there.
It felt good. It sort of felt good to just sit around and talk orally for a longer period of time. Try to get things out in the open. It's working well for me so far. Although I guess I have been, although you can always tell when I'm getting a bit frustrated, when I'm getting a bit restless, because after a while I can talk pretty well if I feel inspired, if I feel there is a certain expectation on me. But after a while, sitting like that, my ability to conversate, my conversation gets a bit blurry. I'm at lost for words. So you can always tell that I have a sort of, when it comes to conversation, I have sort of battery, which is it's well charged, but you will notice even now that I'm trying to explain myself. I kind of stumble in my words, and that's because I don't have a lot of practice talking for a long time. Although, I have as much practice as the next man, but after a while, for me, conversation requires some inspiration. After a while, I'm running out of things, phrases. I'm running out of things to say. So yes, but I feel we have been talking for a good while, and I feel the conversation has been going rather smooth for most of the time.
Okay.
I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Okay, thank you so much for agreeing to this. Thank you
Yes,
so much for
welcome.
your time. And
Likewise.
I hope we will have this again soon. Take care of yourself and
You
let's
too.
talk soon. Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.